There is good news and bad news about the Department of Public Works and Highways, DPWH, EDSA Decongestion Program, a package consisting of 25 projects including 14 expressways covering 121 kilometers and 11 bridges spanning 9.3 kilometers. The bad news is that the program, as currently conceived, will make matters a lot worse by attracting increased private motor vehicle use, generating more congestion and pollution in the process and disadvantaging the majority of Filipinos who have no access to a private motor vehicle. The good news is that these negative results can be avoided with a different approach to DPWH's urban road and bridge projects. The road and bridge projects need to focus on making walking, cycling, and public transport the preferred travel options instead of using a private motor vehicle. This is the sustainable approach to decongesting EDSA, as well as other urban roads. The false assumption behind DPWH's EDSA decongestion program is that you can solve traffic by building more roads and bridges for cars. Because of the phenomenon of induced demand, any easing of congestion is only temporary. Soon after, it tends to attract greater car use. Eventually, the traffic situation is back to where it was before or worse. Among the many projects in the EDSA decongestion program, Skyway 3 was probably the most significant one. Sad to say, the opening of Skyway 3 has failed to ease congestion on EDSA. Rush hour traffic continues to be heavy. We can expect the same result from the new roads and bridges that are being built. As they say, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Another problem with focusing on infrastructure for private motor vehicles is that it leaves out the majority of Filipinos. In Metro Manila, only 12% of households own a private car. In the rest of country, an even smaller percentage. The EDSA decongestion program benefits the most affluent segments of our population, those who are already privileged to be traveling in isolation during the pandemic. The EDSA decongestion program does little for the millions who rely on walking, cycling and public transportation for their daily travel. Vulnerable road users, the elderly, persons with disabilities and people traveling with small children, are left out of the EDSA decongestion program. In the haste to build more urban roads and bridges, the needs of the physically challenged were not considered. The recently opened BGC Ortigas Bridge and the Estrella Pantaleon Bridge are two fresh examples of transport infrastructure that is inaccessible to anyone unable to climb stairs. However, there is a ready solution for DPWH, one that can deliver significant results with minimal investment and demonstrate that DPWH is responsive to our current health, climate, and mobility crisis. The solution entails revising the use of urban roads and bridges so that they serve a larger number of users and encourage a shift to sustainable travel modes, walking, cycling, and low-emission public transport. Below are suggestions for how this can be achieved through DPWH's activities in urban road construction and rehabilitation. Safe and shaded sidewalks. The most popular form of urban travel is walking. Over 30% of all urban trips are on foot. Even though all of us are pedestrians, most city sidewalks are either too narrow, hazardous, or non-existent. There are very few sidewalks that are fully compliant with Philippine laws, especially with the provisions that guarantee accessibility of public infrastructure for persons with disability. Thousands of kilometers of sidewalk on urban national roads can be made fully compliant with DPWH standards in terms of width, safety, and accessibility. In addition, sidewalk widening and improvement can include introduction of greenery, shade trees, and permeable pavements for urban heat reduction and flood mitigation, making local streets more climate resilient. These are straightforward, short gestation projects that can be implemented in every urban barangay, village. Protected bicycle lanes and shared streets. Networks of bicycle lanes need to be created in every Philippine city. These can be introduced on a pop-up basis with paint, traffic cones, and bollards. If there is sufficient budget, more permanent bike infrastructure can be introduced. Another option is to designate a road or street as a shared street with a speed limit of 30 km per hour or less plus traffic calming infrastructure, speed humps, barriers, etc., allowing pedestrians, cyclists, and motor vehicles to share the same road carriageway. Exclusive public transport lanes. There are numerous urban roads, which could introduce lanes dedicated to public transport, enabling buses and jeepneys to increase their capacities with faster travel times and more round trips during the day. The EDSA busway is a good example of how an exclusive lane for public transport can move many more people than a lane for private cars. Car-free corridors or periods. Another option to restrict a road only to pedestrians, cyclists and public transport. The restriction could be applied throughout the week or only for specific periods during the day, for example, weekdays from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. This way, many more people would be able to travel safely and efficiently during the car-free periods. It would encourage people to shift to sustainable transport modes. How about piloting this concept on the BGC Ortegas Bridge or the Estrella Pantaleon Bridge during weekends? In the end, repurposing urban roads to attract more people to walk, cycle and use public transport, making these travel modes convenient, efficient, and safe, is the best strategy for decongesting our cities and major roads like EDSA. Fewer people using private motor vehicles is the key performance indicator, which should shape DPWH's work program and its road and bridge investments in cities. More people walking, on bicycles, and using public transport makes our cities more livable, improves health outcomes and fights climate change. DPWH can make a huge difference in public welfare by repurposing its urban roads and bridges to serve the needs of the majority of Filipinos, especially those without private motor vehicles. Indeed, DPWH might be in the best position to deliver the greatest good for the greatest number within the remaining time of the Duterte administration.